Today on the Commanders Report, we're going to take a look back at the 2024 Commanders draft class. The first year Adam Peters was the GM of the Washington Commanders, with a little bit of 2020 hindsight here now. Of course, these players that were rookies last year are going into their second year. I want to break down each of these players and where they are heading into their sophomore season in the National Football League. But before we get into the content today, what say you? Let me know down there in the comment section to kick off today's show and grade the job that Adam Peters, the Commanders GM for the last 2 seasons, has done so far. Would you give him an A? Would you give him a B, C, D, or F? Let me know down there in the comment section how you think Adam Peters is doing, and give me some reasons why you think he's either doing a good job or not so good job to this point in his Commanders tenure. So first here, I want to revisit my initial grades that I gave after the 2024 NFL Draft. We did a whole video. We do it every single year. After the draft, I break down every single pick, and I give my grade. And at the time, I was really high on a lot of the draft picks that this team ended up making. I gave, what did I give? 5 A grades here? I mean, this is very generous from me. Goodness gracious, I love this draft class. I gave it an overall grade of an A-, but with all the A's, I'm surprised I didn't just give them a straight-up A. The only players I didn't give just a straight-up A2 were Jason Newton, Brandon Coleman, Luke McCaffrey, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. 9 overall picks in the 2024 draft class for the Washington Commanders. And now that you guys have seen what I initially thought when they were coming in, now let's get into my thoughts on these guys as they head into year 2. So my grade for Jayden Daniels actually improves from an A to an A+. And the reason why this is an A+ is because not only did Jayden Daniels have one of, if not the best season for a rookie quarterback in NFL history, with almost 70% completion percentage, over 3,500 yards passing, even more when you include his rushing production, 25 touchdowns and just 9 interceptions. He protects the football, throws the ball down the field. He's got super clean throwing mechanics. He's got really nice pocket presence. His mental processing for a young guy is off the charts. He's got everything that you want in your franchise quarterback. So not only does Washington, hit and get a franchise quarterback for the first time in a very, very long time, but they landed a superstar that's going to be a future top 5 talent at the position for the next decade plus. And when you have one of those guys, just look at the Kansas City Chiefs, just look at the Baltimore Ravens, just look at the Buffalo Bills. When you have a guy of this caliber, you are always in contention to win. And he is the type of guy that has enough talent to carry a roster on a massive quarterback contract, all right? And having a guy like this is going to put the Commanders in contention, not only for the playoffs, but to be successful in the playoffs and put them in contention for championships for the next decade plus. And because of that, even though it's the number 2 pick and there's high expectations for that pick, Jayden Daniels, at least to this point, has already exceeded those high expectations, and I'm giving that pick an A+. Then we get to Jason Newton in round 2, who falls to you, kind of surprisingly. A lot of people thought that he might have been a top 20 player in that class. He ends up falling to you. Right now, I'm going to give it a B, all right? And I think Newton has a chance to increase this grade as his career goes on. Last year, he got more and more reps as the season went on. He ended up having 2 sacks and 6 TFLs. So he started to really get going towards the end of the year. He didn't really have an offseason last year because he had identical procedures done on his feet, and which is kind of weird, by the way. But Jason Newton is somebody that's massively talented. I thought he had an awesome 2023 season with the Fighting Illini at Illinois. I thought he was a top 20 player in the entire class. He ends up falling to you in round 2, at the top of round 2. And I think that he's going to be somebody that if he continues to develop here, he's going to be a really valuable piece to this Commanders defense moving forward. But I'm going to give it a B right now because he still needs to reach that potential. I can be optimistic and hopeful for his future all I want, but at the end of the day, he's going to have to prove it, okay? So right now, I'm giving it a B, but this has a chance to really get up there and be a potential A pick for the Washington Commanders if he ends up really proving Adam Peters right heading into year 2 of his NFL career. Then after they take Newton, they end up trading with the division rival Philadelphia Eagles here, where they end up trading down, and they end up getting an additional second-round pick from Howie Roseman and the Eagles. And with this pick, the Eagles ended up taking Cooper DeJean, their slot cornerback, and you ended up gifting the number 1 graded corner in all of professional football last year to your division rival that then went and was one of the best, if not the best defense in football. And they also won the division, and they also won the damn Super Bowl. All right, so this was a very key piece to the Eagles defense that you gifted to them. So this is probably the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that Adam Peters made during the draft last year. And based on the picks that that ended up happening with this deal, the Commanders got Mike Sainristil. We'll talk about him in just a little bit here. They also got Ben Sinnott, and they got Dominique Hampton with the picks they got from the Eagles. And then the Eagles got Cooper DeJean, they got Jalix Hunt, they got Will Shipley, and Ainias Smith. So, I mean, honestly, I like Mike Sainristil a lot, but Cooper DeJean, man, he was really an integral part of that championship run and really improving that Eagles defense last year. So it definitely doesn't feel good to know that you helped your division rival kind of get to the next level when it comes to their defense last year. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Was this trade by Adam Peters a mistake to give the Philadelphia Eagles Cooper DeJean? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And while I'm telling you about Prize Picks today, let me know if this trade back in 2024 was a mistake. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks, which is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cold, hard cash, all on your phone. You can download the Prize Picks app on your phone for free today. And with millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2-player stat projections for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, and Prize Picks puts their members first, guys. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. You never have to worry about that. Plus, when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So Prize Picks also invented the Flex Play as well, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. This year's basketball playoffs are headed towards the crowning a first-time champion in more than 50 years. Don't miss your last chance to cash in on history with Prize Picks. Pick more or less on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Today, you guys can see my projection here for the championship series here between the Thunder and Pacers. I'm going to take the more on three-pointers made per game average for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm going to take the less on assists per game average for Tyrese Halliburton and the less on points per game average for Pascal Siakam. You guys can get in on the action today. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with our friends at Prize Picks today. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, here in round 2, okay, trade down with the Eagles. You know, they get their slot corner, but the Commanders also get a stud slot corner of their own, and Mike Sainristil, who I'm going to give an A- to this point in his career. And, you know, Sainristil really stepped up for this defense last year. And, you know, we told you before the season, this cornerback room's not going to be good enough, and they didn't listen to me. And lo and behold, Michael Davis was dog shit, and Benjamin St. Juste became Benjamin St. Toast. Emmanuel Forbes was, of course, terrible and released midway through the season. But they needed somebody to step up, even after trading for Marshawn Lattimore, especially with his injuries. And Sainristil was the guy that did that. All right, he was this team's #1 outside corner for most of the season, even though his skill set and his physical kind of profile at 5'10", 182 pounds, he's more of a slot corner. All right, and that's probably where he's going to make more of an impact in his career. And you know what I really love about Mikey heading into year 2 here is that he's going to be able to play his more natural position now. Even though it's great that he proved that he can play on the outside in the National Football League with his play last year. Now you got Marshawn Lattimore, and you drafted Trey Amos out of Ole Miss this year in the 2nd round. So Sainristil doesn't need to play on the outside this year, or at least we hope he doesn't. Hopefully Amos is as good as advertised. But I really like Sainristil's skill set. I think he's going to be an absolute stud for this defense in the slot. And as Cooper DeJean showed for the Eagles last year, if you have a really good slot corner in this league, with all the nickel and all the 11 personnel we see on offense today, this could be a very big addition to the Washington Commanders defense moving forward. Then in round 2, pick number 53, they take Ben Sinnott, the tight end out of Kansas State. And this is my first C grade of this kind of regrade of the 2024 draft class for the Washington Commanders, simply because, let's face it, Sinnott didn't do a whole lot for the Washington Commanders last year. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't in the future, and he could certainly raise that grade. But let's face it, guys, a 2nd-round pick, that is a premium draft asset that you spent on Ben Sinnott. If he doesn't really show his worth in year 2 or especially in year 3 and he ends up being a dud, that is a massive missed opportunity for Adam Peters and the Washington Commanders with that 53rd overall selection in the NFL draft. So he's going to have to take a big jump this year and in the years to come to really justify this pick. Now, he's got the physical ability to do it. He's got really great change of direction ability at his size. He's a really good route runner. He could certainly really justify this pick in the years to come, but he just hasn't done it yet. So at this point in time, I have him at a C given where he was drafted. Then we get into round 3 at pick number 67, Brandon Coleman, the offensive lineman out of TCU. I'm going to give him a B- to this point because I still believe that Coleman can develop into a really solid, especially interior offensive lineman. Now, last year, they tried him out at left tackle, just a 59.7 PFF grade, which ranked 64th in the league, which is just not very good. Let's just say what it was. It wasn't a very good season for Brandon Coleman at left tackle. Now, he had his moments where he showed some pretty darn good stuff, but there was way too much inconsistency and not enough good tape last year. And this offseason, the Commanders took action on that. They ended up trading for Laramie Tunsil, one of the best pass-protecting left tackles in all of football, and they drafted another tackle in the first round of the NFL draft. So I actually think Coleman has a really good chance to establish himself as a good starting guard in the league. I always thought coming in out of TCU that he would be more suited to play guard. So I think that he can be a part of the solution here in Washington, but he certainly has a lot to prove heading into year 2 and beyond. Before we get into the rest of the 2024 draft selections and regrade them based on their first year performance, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you're having a good time. We have in-depth Commanders content like this every single day. So if you guys want informative Commanders content every single day, you want more of this type of content, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. Then we get into round 3, pick number 100. And again, guys, they had 6 picks in the top 100. So these picks are really going to be big. And Luke McCaffrey, to this point, kind of like Ben Sinnott, didn't do a whole lot for the Commanders last year. Now, he did show some good things as a kickoff return man. I actually thought he did a really good job of that. But as a receiver, there wasn't a whole lot. And, I personally, when he was coming out of Rice last year, I had a day 3 grade on McCaffrey, okay? And in my notes, I said if his name was Luke Johnson, this guy might not even get drafted. And he ends up going in round 3. And obviously, Adam Peters has the connection to Christian McCaffrey, being the former assistant GM there in San Francisco. And this pick just kind of felt a little bit forced because Luke's last name was McCaffrey, but he is pretty decent after the catch, and he's going to have an opportunity this year to prove himself. Now, apparently, he is already starting to kind of get put down the depth chart and in the pecking order behind Jalen Lane, the mid-round draft pick for the Commanders this year out of Virginia Tech. But, you take a look at this wide receiver room right now. You trade for Deebo Samuel. You bring back Noah Brown, who had a very prominent role in this offense last year. Of course, you still have Terry McLaurin as your number 1 guy. And then they draft Jalen Lane, who apparently is really impressing at Commanders OTAs. And, you start to wonder, is if Luke McCaffrey even going to have an opportunity to prove himself as a legit wide receiver in this group? And if he doesn't, a round 3 pick is still considered, even though, at pick number 100, right at the end of the 3rd round, that's still considered to be a pretty decent draft pick that you're expecting to get a long-term starter out of. And if that doesn't end up being the case here, guys, the grade's going to be lower on McCaffrey. I'll still put it at a C just because he still has an opportunity to prove himself moving forward, and I do like some of the tools he brings to the table, but right now I'll give him a solid C. Then in round 5, they don't have a pick in round 4. Their next pick is in round 5, and they take Jordan Magee, the inside linebacker out of Temple. I'll give him a C+ grade to this point, and maybe C+ is a little bit harsh. Maybe I'll give him a B- because I actually think that he could do some really good things this year, and he's one of these guys that I think could absolutely raise this grade based on his year 2 performance. But like Ben Sinnott, like Luke McCaffrey, just didn't do a whole lot last year. He didn't see the field all too much. He was mostly a special teams player. But it definitely seems like the Commanders have big expectations for Magee this year. He is known for his ability to be a very solid pass coverage player. That's what he was known for at Temple. And with Jeremy Chin, getting out the door this year, going to the Las Vegas Raiders, and they don't really replace his true role as the bandit safety type in this defense. Perhaps that's the role that they envision for Jordan Magee, as kind of a bigger kind of pass coverage type of player where on 3rd downs and on pass happy downs, they take Bobby Wagner off the field and Magee comes in to be a true pass coverage type of player. And I certainly think he can fill that role nicely. He's got some good size, some really great athleticism. He's an athletic freak, and he showed some really good things in pass coverage in his college career. And after a year of development, it definitely seems like the Commanders have big expectations for him heading into year 2. So really hoping he can increase this grade and show us what he's got this year. Then in round 5, I'll also give a C+ to Dominique Hampton, another athletic freak type that they took in round 5 last year at pick number 161. And, you take a look at the relative athletic score for Hampton coming out of Washington last year. And obviously he's a bigger guy, 215 pounds. And if you want to talk about guys that could fill that kind of bandit safety role, that third safety role in Dan Quinn's defense, now that Jeremy Chin is out the door, Hampton's another guy that could fill that role heading into year 2. Obviously, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn really value athletic prowess, and they really trust their coaching staff to be able to develop these guys, coach them up, and hopefully one of these guys, Jordan Magee, Dominique Hampton, or both of them can really cash in on their athletic upside after a year of development and coaching on the bench. Then in round 7, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the edge rusher. I'm going to give it a C. It's hard to give anything lower than a C for a round 7 pick because the expectations are relatively lower, but Jean-Baptiste had some opportunities last year. I didn't think played fantastically, and I think the Commanders kind of agree with that. I mean, right now they bring in Dietrich Wise, they bring in Jacob Martin this offseason. It sounds like they're going to play Javon Kinlaw a little bit on the outside as well at the edge, at least at some point this year, and it just seems like Jean-Baptiste is starting to kind of get forgotten in this group. So, it's a 7th round pick. It's hard to say that it was like a bad selection because at that point, you're really hoping that you find a diamond in the rough. But at the end of the day, I don't think Jean-Baptiste is going to be a starting caliber player, honestly, even a rotational level player in his career, and that's okay. So the overall 2024 regrade, now that we have a little bit of hindsight on this group after 1 year on their NFL journey, I'm still going to give it an A-. I really like this group. Jayden Daniels, you get your superstar level quarterback of the future that's going to elevate this roster and this franchise for a very, very long time. Mike Sainristil seems to be a mainstay in the Commanders defense. And then there's a lot of guys that still have things to prove, but definitely have the arrow pointing up. Guys like Johnny Newton, who I still think can be a mainstay in this defense. Ben Sinnott, a very athletic tight end. You got a couple really athletic defenders in Dominique Hampton and Jordan Magee that I still believe in. So overall, I think that this was a pretty darn good draft class. And at the end of the day, if you get your superstar franchise quarterback, it's always going to be a pretty decent grade from me. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section what you guys think. Who will be the year 2 breakout star for this draft class this year? Obviously, last year, Jayden Daniels doesn't count because he broke out last year. So who in this group is really going to establish themselves this year? Is it going to be Johnny Newton? Is it going to be Jordan Magee? Is it going to be Luke McCaffrey? Is it going to be Brandon Coleman turning into a Pro Bowl caliber guard? What do you guys think? Let me know down there in the comments section. I can't wait to see your ideas down there in the chat room. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already because we got more extensive Commanders content coming your way all throughout the 2025 offseason.